This is the Main Street Preps High School Football Preview Show presented by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk.
Welcome into the second year of the Main Street Preps High School Football Preview Show. I'm Chris Yao. We are proudly presented to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Remember, fans don't let fans drive drunk. We've got folks from all around Middle Tennessee to tell you about them. We'll start up in Clarksville, where brand new reporter Calvin White will tell you about what's going on in Montgomery County and in Houston.
Hello everyone, this is Calvin White, sports editor with Main Street Clarksville. I'm here to give you a quick rundown of this week's Montgomery County area high school football games. We're going to start with Hopkinsville is at Clarksville. Clarksville's continued its regular season dominance through the first 3 weeks of the season. The Wildcats have won 18 straight regular season games dating back to the 2022 season. Hopkinsville is 1-2 and coming off a 40-7 win over Christian County. Clarksville beat Hopkinsville 42-0 last season and is 19-16 all-time against the Tigers. Northwest is at Rossview. Rossview is off to its first 3-0 start for the first time since 2013. Rossview won last year's matchup against the Vikings 52-0. Kirkwood is at Northeast. Kirkwood also off to a 3-0 start. Kirkwood beat Northeast 49-29 last season, the only matchup in the two schools' history. West Creek is at Kenwood. West Creek won last year's matchup 28-7, but is 4-11 all-time against the Knights. Montgomery Central is at Creekwood. Creekwood is 13-8 all-time against Montgomery Central, and they narrowly edged out the Indians last year 21-20. Middle Tennessee Christian is at Clarksville Academy. Both teams are 1-2 with two big losses on their resume. Middle Tennessee Christian beat Clarksville Academy 42-7 last season and is 5-4 all-time against Clarksville Academy. I'm Calvin White, sports editor with Main Street Clarksville. I'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Calvin. Let's go up to Sumner County now, where Blaine Kellar is standing by with a report.
Tropical Storm Francine has already played an impact on one Sumner County football game for Week 4. I'm sports editor Blaine Kellar here to break that down and more as we enter another slate of high school football in the Mid-State. We start with the big news. Gallatin and Dixon County has been moved up from Friday night to Thursday. Originally a 7 p.m. start, kickoff now scheduled for 6:30 at Calvin Short Field. I'm also told that the throwback game, the tribute night that was scheduled for Union High School, Sumner County's lone black high school during the segregation era, that's now been moved to Gallatin's home game October 18th against Wilson Central. Most everybody else is still scheduled and on tap to play Friday night as we record this Wednesday morning. Region 7 5A play kicks off for three area teams. Portland hosts Beach and Hendersonville facing Hunters Lane. Their fellow region foe Springfield enters the county area as well, though they'll face Station Camp on the road in non-region action. JP2 hosts the Webbs School in hopes of picking up its first middle region win of the season. Liberty Creek faces Stratford. Westmoreland plays Jackson County, and White House is on the road at Whites Creek. We hope you stay dry, whether you're at a game Thursday or Friday. We hope to see you out there as part of our coverage for Main Street Preps.
Great job as always, Blaine. Hey, let's move over to David Wilson. He's in Robertson County telling you about what's going on in his area.
Hey everyone, this is David Wilson, sports reporter for the Robertson County Connection, here to give you a quick preview of all the Week 4 games across the Robertson County area this week. It all starts off on Thursday night as East Robertson hosts Sycamore That game was moved up from Friday night with the potential weather coming in as the Indians, who are undefeated on the year, the number one team in the Class 2A poll for the Tennessee Sports Writers Association, host Sycamore, who is 2-1 on the year. Expect this one to be a physical matchup between two teams that like to run the football. Expect East Robertson to come out running the football with Caleb McNeil at the running back position, as it was announced last week that senior running back Isaiah Groves, who is committed to Georgia Tech and won Mr. Football Award last year, is out for the rest of the year with a torn ACL. Also expect East Robertson to be able to throw the ball with Kason Young at the quarterback position, and Cade Brooks, who had a monster week last week against Monterey, had 10 catches for 137 yards and 2 total touchdowns. Expect them to be involved as well as the Indians host the War Eagles on Thursday night. Moving to Friday's slate of games, you have White House Heritage, who is 1-2 on the year, has dropped 2 consecutive games and given over 40 points in those matchups. They host winless Cheatham County to kick off region play for that one in Region 6-3A. White House Heritage looking to bounce back after 2 rough weeks last week against Westmoreland, where they lost 42-20, and then a road loss the week prior to East Hickman. This game went 21-14 last year in favor of the Patriots. They will host Cheatham County, as I mentioned, who has struggled to get their offense started here to start the regular season. Moving on to Sumner County, Springfield, who is 1-2 on the year. They will travel to face winless Station Camp, who's still looking for their first one, as I mentioned, and they were beat pretty handily last week in their region opener to Marshall County 40-7. Springfield had good signs last week. They almost pulled the upset in Region 7-5A, where they lost to Henry County by a last-second field goal by the Patriots kicker Killian Snow. So Springfield building some momentum with their sophomore quarterback in Kason Young. Moving right along, White House, who is 2-1 on the year, they've won 2 straight games. Picked up a region win last week over Montgomery Central. They will travel for another region contest. They will travel to Nashville, where they face undefeated Whites Creek, who is 3-0. Whites Creek quarterback Deion Barnes had a day last week against Greenbrier in the Cobras' 52-15 win over the Bobcats. He threw for over 300 yards and 5 total touchdowns. As I mentioned, he's a freshman. So White House will have a challenge this week as they face the much-improved Whites Creek team on Friday night. Joe Burns, who is 1-2 on the year, they lost last week against Whitwell, 49-7. They will travel to face undefeated Gordonsville to kick off region play in Region 4-1A. Gordonsville is the number 2 team in the Tennessee Sports Writers Association Class A poll, so a stiff challenge for the Red Devils as they travel to Smith County. And then moving on, Greenbrier, who I mentioned lost to Whites Creek last week, 52-15. They are still searching for their first win of the year. They are 0-3, and they will have a tough challenge this week as they go face Marshall County, who is 3-0, one of the favorites in Region 5-4A. Marshall County, as I mentioned earlier, had a convincing 40-7 win over Station Camp last week. So tough sledding once again for John Elmore's Bobcats as they are on the road for the second consecutive week. And then finally, Innovation Academy, who is still searching for their first win this season and their first win in program history. They are 0-3 after last week's loss in Chattanooga to Grace Baptist Academy. They will host the Memphis Academy of Science and Engineering this week. The Phoenix are 1-1 on the year. So Innovation Academy hosting the Memphis team out of Shelby County this week at Boyd Smith Field. They're looking for their first win in program history. So that'll do it here on the preview. Looking forward to talking to you guys on the wrap-up next week.
Thanks for that report. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more from around Middle Tennessee on the Main Street Preps High School Football Preview Show presented by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office.
He shoots, and he scores!
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Moving clockwise now, we go south to Monte Hale, who's in Rutherford County.
Hello, I'm Monte Hale, sports editor of the Murfreesboro Post. We've got week 4 of high school football coming up. It's hard to believe we've made it almost a month in such what seems to be a short time. We'll talk about some good matchups this week. We'll start off with Antioch at Oakland. You know, this is one that might not have turned your head back earlier in the summer, but Antioch is doing great things with that program. It's gotten built up the last 2 or 3 years. Arcente Broom, longtime Metro coach, is now taken over. There was a time, because I remember this, Antioch was competing in the region with Smyrna, Stewart's Creek, and Laverne. They did good to get 25 people on their roster. I think they played at Laverne one night and they had 19 kids. Well, it's not the case anymore. They got a great quarterback. They're 3-0. They're probably favored to win that region. So I don't know if they've caught up with Oakland yet, but their quarterback will give Oakland a good test because he is a runner and a thrower. And Oakland's going to give Antioch a test because they're one of the best teams in the state. So it should be a very interesting matchup on Friday night. Germantown at Riverdale. This is the second of a 2-year series. Riverdale went to Germantown last year, got behind, went ahead, and ended up losing that game. Germantown last week lost to Germantown Houston, who, by the way, defeated Oakland in the Blue Cross Bowl last year for the championship. And it was 36-30. So that ought to be a good matchup. Stewart's Creek at Rockville. Couple teams that do a lot of good things, couple teams that sometimes lose their way. Rockville is 2-1. Correction, they're 1-2. Stewart's Creek's 2-1. As far as the inter-county matchup, a very good one. These two teams are pretty evenly matched, you would think, going in. Okay, Summit at Blackman. Okay, well, Blackman see some fruits of its labor, and by labor I mean the schedule, brutal schedule that it's played, that has included Brentwood and Ravenwood, 2 top 10 teams. They face a Summit team that is not near as strong as those, so the Blaze will be looking to even their ledger. Page at Laverne. Pretty tough one for Laverne here. Page, I think they're aiming to go to the Class 5A state title game for the 4th year in a row. I think I saw where their class, since they were freshmen, have been every year, have yet to win it. Eagleville, laboring to score. They play some great defense. I mean, I think they gave up, 19 points their first game. They've only given up a couple touchdowns each of the last 2 games, but they're just finding it hard and difficult to get into the end zone. Collinwood at Eagleville. This is a big one for Eagleville. They were already 0-1 in their region. They lost at home. They can really ill afford another one. You hate to say these are must-wins this early, but you got to protect your home field. Their region is such that there's some tough road trips in that, so Eagleville needs to bounce back. MTC and Clarksville Academy, both teams kind of searching. MTCS did get its first victory last week. I think it's a pretty even matchup going in. Siegel at Coffee County. Siegel struggling right now, and Coffee County doing some pretty good things, you know. I think most people assumed when they came into this region that they would be the doormat. That has not been the case. And finally, we've got Smyrna at Ravenwood. Another tough matchup for Smyrna. are coming off that big win over Siegel. Should be a pretty good matchup. Ravenwood will test their offense. Ravenwood has got a very good defense. They've got two outstanding running backs, one that's going to Auburn, one that's going to MTSU. So the Bulldogs will have their hands full, but again, not a region game. All righty, again, I'm Monte Hale, sports editor of the Murfreesboro Post.
In Murray County, it's Maurice Patton. He's going to tell you a little bit about what's going on in there and in southern Williamson counties.
Hey, I'm Maurice Patton, sports editor at Main Street Murray. We head into week 4 of the high school football season this weekend, weather permitting. We'll start as Columbia Academy travels west to take on Huntington. The Bulldogs 2-1 coming off of last week's win at home against Friendship Christian. Huntington 1-1. That's a long trip, and Huntington was successful making it east last year, defeating the Bulldogs. We'll see how CA holds up heading out there Friday night. Also on the road is Columbia Central as the Lions travel to Shelbyville for a big Region 5-5A matchup. Shelbyville won this game 29-27 at Lindsey Nelson Stadium last year, and they bring back one of the key components of that win, running back Robert Bailey, who has already rushed for over 600 yards in 3 games for the 2-1 Golden Eagles. Central's defense has kind of taken center stage to this point, pitching back-to-back shutouts. I mean, they beat Dixon County 22-2 2 weeks ago, and they defeated Hunters Lane 24-0 last year, scoring a defensive touchdown in each of those. So you can kind of tell where this matchup is headed. Franklin comes to Independence in the Region 6-6A opener for both those teams. The Admirals 1-2 on the year. Independence winless through 3 games to this point, but they lost 20-13 up at Centennial last week, scoring their first points of the season. So maybe things are moving in the right direction for the Eagles, and maybe it pays off as they open region play Friday night. Also in region action, Spring Hill goes to Lincoln County. The Raiders 0-3. Lincoln County is 2-1 overall, 2-1 overall, 1-0 in Region 5-5A play after their win over Lawrence County last week. Spring Hill just hasn't been able to finish, and that's kind of where they're at right now. They just got to get over the hump. They lost 28-16 to Summit. They lost 34-20 to Mount Pleasant. They lost 19-14 this past week to Maplewood. So late game situations are where Spring Hill is going to have to figure some stuff out. Another big region matchup, Mount Pleasant hosting Harpeth this week. The visiting Indians 1-2 overall, 0-1 in Region 5-2A. Mount Pleasant 3-0, 1-0, and ranked number 10 in this week's Tennessee Sports Writers Association's Class 2A statewide poll. Mount Pleasant balanced offensively and athletic, and that's kind of been the key for them through this 3-0 start, and they'll look to continue that against the visiting Indians on the turf Friday night. Finally, in a non-region matchup, matching up 2 1-2 teams, Summit goes over to Blackman. Summit hasn't been able to reprise that 350-yard rushing performance that they had in that Spring Hill game in week 1, but a lot of that has been due to some injuries along the offensive line. If they can get some guys back, then they've got some chances, especially against a Blackman team that has struggled as well. Again, they're 1-2. Their only win is against Stewart's Creek. They defeated Brentwood. They lost to Brentwood and Ravenwood in week 1 and week 3. So that's the week in high school football in and around Murray County. I'm Maurice Patton, sports editor at Main Street Murray. We'll see y'all soon.
Thanks for that report. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more from around Middle Tennessee on the Main Street Preps High School Football Preview Show presented by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office.
He shoots, and he scores!
We stay in southern Middle Tennessee with Wade Neely. He's going to tell you a little bit about Giles County and what's going on there.
Hey folks, Wade Neely here, sports editor at the Pulaski Citizen and contributor over at the Lawrence County Advocate. Time now for a look ahead at the week 4. Man, week 4 of the high school football season for our area teams. And a couple of our teams are locking horns this week. A couple of rivalry showdowns on the books. We'll start over in Lawrence County, where it will be Summertown and Loretto duking it out for gridiron supremacy this week. This is going to be a proverbial rubber meets the road matchup as Summertown travels down to Loretto. It should be a great one. I'm looking forward to it as Summertown's defense has carried the Eagles to a 3-0 record. They posted shutouts in their first 2 games, and then they followed up with a 26-12 victory last week in their region opener versus Hickman County. Loretto, meanwhile, they've been equally impressive. 35-0 versus Collinwood on night 1, and then 34-7 on the road last week at Harpeth. In the middle, though, perhaps due to injury to Mason Tidwell, who was banged up in that game versus Lawrence County, but they do fall to their rivals then. So Lawrence County gets Loretto, and Loretto enters this game at 2-1. This is a region game. This is going to be fun. It should be an absolute battle between these two foes on the gridiron. So that's rivalry matchup number 1. Rivalry matchup number 2, a special Thursday night showdown. They're calling it the first ever Thursday night cowbell game as Giles County will host Lawrence County. A lot of consternation about this game between these two teams for a variety of reasons. Some on and some off of the gridiron. But I digress on the latter there. But it'll be Lawrence County making the trip over to Sam Davis Park. We will be broadcasting the game on Pulaski Citizen Live. Chris Bledsoe alongside yours truly. We will also be broadcasting this game, simulcasting as part of our Thursday night Main Street Preps Game of the Week coverage. So make sure you tune in for that one. It's going to be a fun one. This is Lawrence County's first trip to the Brickyard since 2017. They came to Lawrence County and played in 2018, and then they hit the pause button on that rivalry up until last year. And last year, Giles County kick-started the rivalry back in their favor with a bang, 42-7. And so GCHS is now looking for 2 in a row after they put up the big number last year. Lawrence County coming into this one, tough region game last week versus Lincoln County. And then Giles County, meanwhile, they come in taking on a foe from Lincoln County as well as they took on Fayetteville. And Giles County picked up its first win of the season, 38-7. So this is going to be a fun rivalry game. Again, catch it on PulaskiCitizen.com. Click on Pulaski Citizen Live or MainStreetMediaRadio.com. Finally, we close with Richland and Fairview. This is not a rivalry game per se, but it's going to be fun, especially if last year's meeting was any indication, as Fairview goes for 2 in overtime and wins it 29-28. And the Raiders, who were playing very well, if you discredited the Raiders after their opening night defeat to Lincoln County, maybe revisit that because they have followed up with 2 nice wins, including a big region win last week versus Wayne County. So Richland is hosting Fairview as of right now. Any game that's going to get played on Friday is certainly susceptible to inclement weather conditions, and we will monitor all of our games in our coverage area as the weekend gets ready to come upon us. So again, Summertown, Loretto, Giles County, Lawrence County, and then Richland and Fairview, all part of our coverage here at the Pulaski Citizen and the Lawrence County Advocate. Wade Neely saying so long for now. We will see you next week, and we will have much more on all these games online at PulaskiCitizen.com and at the Lawrence County Advocate. See you next time.
We'll go now to Casey Patrick, who has a report from both Dixon and Cheatham County.
Hi, how are y'all? My name is Casey Patrick. I'm a sports reporter for the Dixon Post and the Cheatham County Exchange. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of Week 4 football action. We're going to start with the game. I'm going to be at Creekwood. They're hosting Montgomery Central. Montgomery Central comes into the game 0-3. Had a rough start to the season. Creekwood's 2-1. They lost their first game of the year last week to Pearl Cone. So Red Hawks looking to get back in the win column. Dixon County's on the road. I think that game's been moved up to Thursday. They're on the road against Gallatin. Gallatin's 1-2 on the year. So is Dixon County. So two teams, storied rivalry. It's not a region game, but two teams looking to get even on the season. So moving over to Cheatham County, Cheatham County Central is going to be at White House Heritage. Cheatham County Central is 0-3 on the year, looking for their first win. Going to have to slow down a pretty potent Patriots offense. Harpeth is traveling to Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant's 3-0 on the year. Harpeth is 1-2. They're looking to get back to 500. And we're going to round out with Sycamore. I think the Sycamore at East Robertson game could be one of the better ones across the state on Friday night. Again, that could be a game that's been moved up to Thursday. I'm not sure yet. But Sycamore's 2-1 on the year. They had a slow start against Kirkwood, I believe. But the last 2 weeks, Sycamore's looked really strong. And, of course, East Robertson at 3-0. They're one of the better teams in that class. So that could be a fun game to watch. We've got, I believe, David Wilson's going to be out there for us. So y'all have a wonderful evening. Try and stay dry this weekend. See y'all.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the Main Street Preps High School Football Preview Show. Again, we are presented by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans, don't let fans drive drunk. We'll see you right after the games for the Main Street Preps post-game show and recaps. Once again, I'm Chris Yao on Main Street Media TV. Have a great day.
This is the Main Street Preps High School Football Preview Show presented by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk.